Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is just eat meat, and that's what you should do. But if you're hiking or road tripping or stuck at work and you want something nutritious that is just meat, fat, and possibly salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. I like this product not only because it is pure meat, but also because I really want the carnivore market to thrive as well. The more we support meat only products, the more people will make meat only products, and this will bring this into the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to check out, then take a look and use my discount code HTC to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hello and welcome to the How to Carnivore podcast. We're joined again by Dr. Chaffee, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, the plant-free MD. Dr. Chaffee, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Likewise. And we've also got Joey Penfold, known as Carnivore Joe on Instagram here. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
Our pleasure. So Dr. Chaffee and I know Joe really quite well because he was part of our Carnivore Challenge for a few months. And Joe has had a lot of success, but he's also a big personality and was good at firing everybody up, keeping the troops on track. And he's into the X3 as well. So it's going to be great to dig into Joe's carnivore story. So Joe, do you want to kick off with explaining how you came to be a carnivore?
It really kind of started, I've been on carnivore now for just a little over a year. So January was my anniversary to nice. That. But prior to that, I had struggled a lot with weight, pretty much my whole life, where I had to, if I was not in the gym working out, a lot, I would gain weight very easily and have a hard time keeping it off. I have a degenerative arthritis and a lot of joints. I have a fused left ankle and arthritic joints, my knee, both my knees, my hip, my back, all my vertebrae in my neck from an fairly early age, and which made moving around pretty difficult. To do the type of exercises that I felt like I had to do in order to be able to keep the weight off, and pretty much spiraled to the point where I got over a year ago. Had gotten to my heaviest that I'd ever been, which was over 400 pounds, and I just I got tired of the doctor telling me that I was killing myself. I'm gonna die. I had type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure. I was on the maximum dosage of blood pressure medication that he could give me, and it still was uncontrolled. Low testosterone, but anytime they would give me erogenous testosterone in order to correct that, my blood pressure would spike even higher. Just all kinds of medical problems, and as I mentioned before, the arthritic condition. And I had prior success with Atkins and ketogenic type diets, low carbohydrate diets. So that's where I kind of scratched the surface there. And about a year ago, I started digging a little bit, and I was like, there's got to be more to this. And then, actually, to be honest with you, I ran onto one of your podcasts with Dr. Chaffee, and then dug a little deeper and seen some videos from Sean Baker, Ken Berry, Steak and Butter Gal, Bella. Just went down the rabbit hole, really, right? And I was like, I was very open to it because I was like, and I've said this before to many other people, because they're like, well, it's just so hard to do that, to stick to something like that. And it was just, it was mental for me. I had made all the excuses in the world. My family is skinny. They don't have to eat what I eat. They can eat whatever they want, and they don't gain any weight, so it's not fair. I can't eat the same. I can't eat what I need to eat because they all eat everything else and get away with it. And I was like, no, that's an excuse. It's actually BS really, because it doesn't matter what they can eat and get away with, and what if I want to live, if I want to be healthy, then I know what I need to eat, and just basically my body is going to go where my mind tells it to go, where it leads it, and I have to be stronger mentally and more focused on what I need to do in order to be able to get there. And basically, that's where it started. And I just basically started eating, carnivore meals, while everybody else was still eating the bread and the sugars and everything else. I mean, they'd all eat it right in front of me. And I just like, you know what, I don't care, because I eat that stuff and it's going to kill me. And I kept doing that. And probably after it was pretty close to about the 4-month mark on carnivore, I had lost over 100 pounds already.
Wow. So a quarter of your body weight. Weight in 4 months.
Now it's coming off a little bit slower now, and I'd like to lose about another 45, 50 pounds, somewhere around there. But I feel amazing. A lot of people ask me, they say, how do you feel on it, and how does it work? And I always tell them, I'm going to be, this is my last year in my 40s. I'll be 49 in a few months, and I actually feel better than I did when I was in my 20s. So
awesome.
No more low testosterone issues. I reversed my type 2 diabetes, came off of all my blood pressure medication, came off of the metformin, all of that stuff. So I don't have to take anything anymore. I do from time to time still take Advil because of the arthritis, but the inflammation markers are so low that's very rare. It's usually whenever, we have a weather event, or, something where the pressure changes, and it might cause me some discomfort getting around. So I'll maybe take a couple Advil in order to be able to try to limit that, and be able to be a little more mobile.
Yeah. And so your weight's improved dramatically. Your health has improved dramatically, just how you feel. And you said your testosterone's up. And what are your blood sugar and HbA1c, and what are all those doing now?
Well, when I was diagnosed with type 2, it was above 7, the A1C, and then I recently checked it. It was probably about 3 weeks ago. I checked it, and it was like 4.9.
Perfect. That's really good.
So
yeah.
My blood pressure's come down to at any given time, it's about 120/70. So it's
dead perfect.
Ideal, where with medication it was like 160. It was quite high, and that was with medication, and it was with the higher dose of medication as well.
Yeah.
So there were days that I couldn't even hardly get out of bed, and I don't have those days anymore. I'm down to about, like I said, I was a little over 400 pounds. I'm down to about 250 now.
Wow.
And I've been pretty consistent there for a little while. And, but I know you mentioned X3, and I do like using X3, but I kind of fell off the wagon there for a little while with that during the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas time frame. Had a lot of family members that were visiting, and and then we were traveling as well. So I kind of fell off of that, but I challenged you guys to another 30 days on the X bar. So tomorrow will be day 3 on that. So we're back in full swing on that.
And I knew we were going to talk about it, so I did a session just before this. I did a push session because I'd feel guilty if Joe's like, "Yeah, I'm back on the train." So yeah, I did a push session. It was great.
Nice,
good deal, awesome.
Yeah, I have not, but I plan to get on that. I've sort of got out of the habit as well, just because I've been on call like literally every other day. So every other day I'm doing like a 36-hour shift. So I do 36-hour shift, and I go to sleep that night, and I start another one the next day. And then like over the weekend it was like 48 hours, and then my normal shift on the Monday. So it was You could call those excuses, but
you're good.
Yeah.
But it is something, you know, I liked it when you said that, because that, you know, that inspires me and motivates me as well, you know, because I can see that, like, hey, let's do this. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And then, you know, I have something to work towards as well. And I have something that I have to keep myself, you know, honest with. And it's like, well, you know, we're all doing this, and I'm not going to be the one to shirk out on it. So, you know, I appreciated that as well.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, no, I wouldn't call what you've got going on excuses. No, I totally understand. I worked in the medical field years ago. I was in cancer and hematology as a nurse, and then also worked for the VA as a front office LPN style, you know, with some of the clinics and stuff like that, and handling some paperwork and you know, with patients and things like that. So I know what you guys go through, and the hours and the shifts that you do and stuff like that. And especially for you being, you know, in neuro, I've mentioned to you before, my wife has congenital hydrocephalus. So we have a neurosurgeon that we see regularly for her, and a neurologist, just to make sure that everything is good with her VP shunt and the anticonvulsant medication that she has to take.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's the thing with shunts as well, is that they usually tell you when there's something wrong. Yeah. They go wrong, they go very wrong. And then you just have to do it.
Very quickly. It's happened. It happened 5 times while she was pregnant with our son. Our son is 17 years old now.
Yeah.
So there was a time where we thought we might actually lose her and him, you know, at that time frame. So it was very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that that was it. They were able to help. So that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, that's great. I mean, you made massive improvements. You said all these other people are eating just all the other things. What are they doing now? Have they sort of taken your lead and seen that you're not going to kill yourself, you're not going to gain weight, you're actually improving your life and your health?
What's funny is so the first person to convert was my mother. She lives in Tampa with my sister, but and I'm in Destin, Florida, so we're about 7 hours apart. But she was diagnosed probably about 2 years ago with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and also with stage 4 renal failure. And since when she saw how well I was doing on Carnivore, and this is probably after about 3 or 4 months, and I kept telling her, I was like, you need to stay away, because she kept showing me that she was eating all this fruit and this honey and stuff. And I was like, Mom, you need to stop. That's not going to help your liver. You know, you've got, you know, you're in a spot right now. And that's, you know, I keep hearing from Dr. Chaffee. I keep hearing from Sean Baker, from Ken Berry. We need to stay away from that fruit. That's bad stuff. And,
especially with fatty liver disease, you know, you're just compounding things, you know?
So she actually quit and started eating a meat-based diet, and then as she actually saw improvement, the sores that were on her skin from having from renal failure went away, and the next time she went in for her labs, her kidney labs came back normal, and that was awesome. I think that was within 2 months.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I bet her nephrologist was freaking out, you know, because like
it's like, did we get this diagnosis wrong? You know, so that was her story, and she's lost a few pounds, but not anything really dramatic like my change was.
Is she strict carnivore?
I don't know, because I'm not there with her all the time. I mean, she sends me pictures of, you know, lunch with steak or, you know, eggs or whatever it is. And I think she's pretty much on there, but my sister is not. And my sister's husband is not as well. So living in a house with other people that are not, not following it, I would suspect that she occasionally partakes in some other things. But she's doing better, and you know, like I said, doesn't have the issues with her liver or with her kidneys anymore, all of her arthritic condition. She was telling me how she could barely make it up the flight of stairs in the house before, and now she goes up and down all day long without any issue at all. And she's in her 60s, so, but then my son, so he dropped probably about 75 pounds on carnivore. So he switched to carnivore, and he dropped about 75 pounds in about 2 to 3 months. And, I had acne issues. All of that went away. Grades in school improved.
Love that.
Confidence level went through the roof. I mean, he totally changed, right?
Yeah,
so he was this little gamer kid that didn't want to do anything. And then now he's interacting socially with other children, other kids his age, and wanting to do things, and get involved in sports. I mean, it changed him dramatically. And now we've got a membership, both of us, at Gold's Gym, and he goes up there regularly to work out, and I'll go with him sometimes. Most of the time I use the X3, because I started throwing around some free weights early on, and I end up hurting my arm, so I just like the bands a whole lot better, because it's a little, I get a good workout in, and I don't have to worry about hurting myself with the free weights, and stuff. So I stick with that, and I think that helps with my joints as well. So
yeah.
The other person that switched over was my wife. She switched to a carnivore diet, and she's now able to cut her anticonvulsant medication in half.
Wow.
She started having, so she switched carnivore and was feeling better. And actually, she went from 24 plus years of marriage and 2 kids, and now she's back down to what her high school weight was.
Wow.
Nice.
113 pounds now.
Nice.
Is what she's at. So, and she's loving it, right?
Yeah.
And then she started experiencing some symptoms from the medication that she was taking. It just suddenly started as a result, some tingling in her hands, and then also some hearing loss because of the carbamazepine that she was taking. And so we had determined that might be a result of the ketogenic diet, that she was no longer requiring as much medication anymore. And since lowering the medication, the symptoms have subsided, and she's feeling a whole lot better now. So
that's great.
My daughter is the hard one to win over, because she is a sugar addict. She's very thin, and she feels like she can eat whatever she wants and doesn't have to worry about it. However, she did have a little bit of a wake-up call the other day when I did an A1C for her. And I said, you're not pre-diabetic yet, but you're getting there. I think hers was like 5.6, something like that. So for her, I mean, she probably weighs about. I told her, I said, you're still technically in what they consider normal, but you're on the upper side of normal. And if you don't want to have these same kind of issues later in life, you probably should start cutting back a little bit on that stuff. And she will, from time to time, she'll say, I'm going to switch to carnivore. I'm going to do that. And she'll do it for about 2 hours. And then she's got to go have her Starbucks caramel macchiato or whatever it is that she has, just sugar bombs, liquid sugar bombs,
drugs. They get you.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, sugar and caffeine.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you're setting a great example, and the people around her are getting better visibly. She has it in her head. She knows that, this sort of stuff is going to catch up with her in the end. And, it's just, that's how you do. You just slowly work away at it, and you don't push too hard, because they'll automatically push back. And, but you can always try things like, hey, why don't you try it for a month, and why don't we'll have some sort of reward system at the end of this. You do this, after a month, if you stick to it, we'll do this or something like that. Or and you can always control what's in the house as well, and just if she's there, there's no other options apart from what you want. And if she wants to go out and get something, she has to go out and get something, and it just makes that a bit more of a normal thing and a normal environment for her to be in, and then just sort of starts feeling better and seeing the contrast. And then you just slowly wear her down like a rock at the beach, just waves crashing in and just get her eventually.
We kind of do that now. She knows not to call me and ask, like if I'm going to the store, she knows not to call me and ask me to buy anything. When she'll ask me something, I'll be like, I won't buy that toxic stuff, sorry. That's not going to happen. And then and she'll be like, oh my God, everything's toxic, Dad. And I'm like, yep, it is. If it isn't meat and eggs, it is.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Science.
I didn't
ever heard of it.
I didn't dose it. It's just the way it is.
I mean, she's got a massive head start on, say, yourself, Joey, because you can tell she already knows that carnivore is good, or carnivore is healthy. It's just whether she thinks it's worth giving up this sugar to be healthy. Whereas, so many people start from, I don't know what healthy is.
Right.
At least she acknowledges that's the way to go ultimately.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's it's good that it's in her head anyway. And I'm sure she's making different choices already and cutting things back, even though she is doing some things. I would be willing to bet that she's eating more meat and eating less of that crap as well, even if she's not sort of doing full
yeah,
board.
I agree.
She is. When she eats out, she doesn't eat here very often because I don't buy that stuff. My fridge and my freezer is full of meat and eggs and butter, and that's the way it is.
That's living.
I have two refrigerators. I have one out in the garage for my dry aging, and then I have the one in the house, and they're carnivore fridge. That's what they are.
So, yeah, like if I was a kid and I saw that fridge, like I would, when I was a kid, that would have been my dream fridge. You're like, yes, that's one of those, kids always look in the refrigerator. You open the refrigerator and it's packed. It's just teeming with stuff. And they're like, oh, there's nothing to eat. Everything's just ingredients, and that's what I always felt.
That's what she says to me. I get home from work and she's like, Dad, there's nothing to eat in your fridge. I said, there is all kinds of things to eat in the fridge.
Everything in there can be eaten.
Everything in there, It's like, what you mean is it's not full of toxic sludge, so she'll go to Chick-fil-A and get chicken nuggets or something, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's meat, but it's fried in seed oil and all kinds of other garbage.
Breaded.
That stuff is going to cause a problem.
Every time I would be looking through the ingredients, it was just like, just plants and vegetables and this and that. And like, I was just like digging through. I'm like, okay, where's their actual food? Finally find like a packet of steaks, like stuffed in under like 500 different things. Like, oh, okay, fine. Finally I can eat this. And that's what I always naturally did. If I couldn't find a piece of meat, it was like, there's just ingredients. What am I supposed to eat? If there was a steak, really I could cook it. Hamburger, eggs.
Really odd for me. Because I used to barbecue an awful lot. And this was before I've always loved eating, steak and ribs and, hamburger and stuff like that. But I grew up and you marinated that stuff, or you added seasonings and, all these other things that were problematic and didn't know any better, but that's just the way that we were raised. And and she, when I would do it that way, when I would use it on the smoker or do whatever, she was all about it. She was my carnivore kid. She's 19 now, and it's pastas and sugars and breads and everything. And it's like, I'm like, girl, you gotta kick that stuff to the curb.
Unfortunately, it's also a fashion thing for some women. For girls, it's like, they get the pasta like Italian style, or like, plant-based is such a fashion thing as well. Smoothies, all that sort of stuff, like, Starbucks. For them, they think it's feminine, but you have a look at what it does to your hormones and how it changes your body, and it's the least feminine or cool thing you can do.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
And they also sort of think about low fat. I mean, that's been so ingrained in people's heads. And, that's one of the things that you see in different psychological, socio-psychological sort of studies is that women do tend to listen to these guidelines and recommendations more. They seem to be less risk averse, whereas a guy be like, oh, you shouldn't eat steak because it's bad for them. Be like, oh, F that. Like, I'm gonna eat this steak. I love this, and like, they're going to do that, and they're going to smoke, and they're going to drink, and they're going to do all these other sort of, high risk sort of things as well. Problem is that, steak is not high risk. That's actually really good for you. But, it's that's what's been told to all of us, that fat is bad and therefore meat is bad. And so on an average, obviously everyone's individual, but on an average, women and girls do tend to listen to those recommendations more. They're less risk averse. So they say, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do it, which is great in a lot of ways, except when they're being lied to about what's actually good for them, like in this case. And so you see a lot of people, women especially, really fat avoidant, especially through their teenage years when they're trying to be slim, and they're just sort of noticing boys and things like that, and they're like, they want to be attractive, and I'm not going to eat fat because I don't want to get fat, and it's so stuck in their head. And I think that's where a lot of eating disorders come from as well. But then it's once you've hardwired that into people, it's very hard to break. You really have to see very hard evidence. Like if someone was just told me like, oh yeah, just eat meat and this, that, and the, I mean, I heard of Atkins, I heard of all that at the time. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess people are sort of doing that. What changed me was when I saw just like hard evidence, like this stuff is toxic, this has poisons, this has hundreds of carcinogens in it. I'm like, screw that. I'm not touching that sort of stuff, And so I needed a hard reason to radically change what I was doing too, because I was taught that this is just how you eat. And even then I was still sort of eating lower fat sort of stuff. And, more recently saw very strong evidence that, fat's actually good for us. And the cholesterol and fat sort of thing was a big charade. And but it took very hard evidence to convince me as well. But that's why I'm so convinced, because I did see some hard evidence. So I think also you can convince people like your daughter with hard evidence, but it can take that, because in her head, in her mind, what you're doing is insane. Even though she's seeing the results in front of her eyes, and your blood tests and your weight and everything else is getting better, so that's probably starting to like get some cracks in the dam. But seeing just just hard evidence that like at some point, she'll need to be convinced if she ever wants to actually try this for herself. So, it's very hard to undo all that.
Oh, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. I have friends that think I'm crazy. They're like, think that the cholesterol is going to kill you. You're going to clog your arteries up. You're going to have a heart attack, this and that and the other. And I try to explain to them, I said, look up the Minnesota Culinary experiment, just look into it, look into the recent studies and as early as 2022 saying that saturated fat had little to nothing to do with our overall cholesterol, and that all of our hormones they're the backbone off of cholesterol, that our brains function better, everything, I don't think, and maybe it's a stretch, but I don't think it's a coincidence that we have an uptick in things like Alzheimer's, dementia, mental health issues. I think that they're probably directly correlated or tied to the fact that we've been ingrained for the last however many years and years to go low fat and cut cholesterol and do these things that are horrible for us,
without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that it's probably has a lot to do with the cancers and things like that we deal with too. The seed oils, the sugars, the inflammation in our bodies. I've read I love it when you interview the doctors that have the books and stuff like that, because I'll buy them and I'll read them. and learn more about them. You know, the Professor Seyfried, you know, about the you know, cancer being fermentation, and then the depleted deuterium, you know, and stuff. And which, by the way, you had mentioned on one of my Instagram posts about that, about how it made me feel. And I'm on a regular subscription with them. That's that you know, for Lightwater. They deliver it every now and then, and we do a little purge basically, and do it. And I actually do feel a difference in the way that I feel after drinking about, you know, 2 liters of that. I just feel, it's not like I have a whole bunch of I don't know. It just, where I should have been really tired, I wasn't. You know, it wasn't that I couldn't go to sleep or that I had ungobs amount of energy or anything like that, but I just wasn't tired. You know, I just wanted to keep doing whatever it was I was doing at the time, which I think was reading. And I was like, you know, I usually reading a book puts me to sleep. To be honest with you, I never really liked reading books. I think up into graduation, I'd only read one novel, and that was Jaws. And you know, and since being carnivore, I've read several books. You know, I think that it has a lot to do with mental clarity and just opening up my horizons. I recently bought a guitar and decided I was going to learn how to play Les Paul, you know, and have picked up on that. And my son wanted to learn how to play too, so he got a bass guitar for Christmas, and we're practicing and playing together on that. And
Joe's becoming the Renaissance man. He's going to be doing he's going to put some watercolor painting. He's going to be writing poetry soon.
Don't tempt me. I probably will. No, I've always been like, I always joke, I'm Jack of all trades, master of none, right? I graduated from high school, went into the Navy. When I got out of the Navy, I got into trade school and became an iron worker. I put together superstructures for buildings, welding and carrying around a lot of iron, heavy iron, and working on bridge decks and stuff like that. Then when I got out of that, I went and worked my way up from a bagger to being a manager of a grocery store and retail. And about every 3 years, I have to hit the reset button and learn a new trade, apparently. I've been a truck driver. I've been a chief of police. I've been, you know, I've been a nurse. I went to school, got my degree for that, then got bored with that after about 3 years, went back to school, got my post certification for being a sheriff and stuff like that. So it's ingrained in me. I have to constantly be challenged.
Nice.
When I was sedentary and wasn't able to move around much because of the pain and inflammation that I was in and the weight that I was, it really was depressing for me. And I had a lot of depression and anxiety, and couldn't be around a lot of people, you know, PTSD, you know, in large crowds and things like that. And since losing the weight and being able to move around and everything, all of that stuff, ever since I started eating steak, it's all gotten better. So
since you started eating the only thing you wanted to eat anyway, it's for me anyway,
what I'm supposed to eat, right?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, but
Joe, you said carnivore saved your life. Is that is that legit? Do you want to expand on that?
No, that's absolutely legit. You know, like I said, over 400 pounds, diabetic, sedentary, not able to move around.
Yeah.
You know, when I did get up and walk around, probably about the maximum that I could get in was about 2,000 steps in a day, which really, and that was the max. And then if I did that, I couldn't walk the next day. That's how bad it was, the pain, the inflammation, and everything else. And I was, at one point I was very, very depressed, and and stuff. Never, um, I don't want to say never ever considered, taking my own life, because that did happen at a point in my life. But later, when my children were around, then it was, I knew that, from what I had learned previously in the medical field and with depression and anxiety and suicidal behavior, was that children of parents that commit suicide are more likely to commit suicide than themselves. And then um, I could never envision what I would put my family through, and then it kept going back to that is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And if it's a temporary problem, then I need to get off my ass and do something about it.
Wow. Well, that's a great insight. And I'm glad that you came by it, because not everybody has that realization, unfortunately, or at least not in time. Yeah, that's something that someone said. It was that they talk about how this diet is restrictive, and people say that how can you only eat one thing, and it's very restrictive. I don't want to be just eating that one thing. I'd feel so limited. But what one person who goes by Thankful Carnivore says is that eating meat is not restrictive. Eating meat is very liberating. Having major depression is restrictive. Being 400 pounds and not being able to walk 2,000 steps in a day without being crippled the next day, that's restrictive. That's literally restrictive. Type 2 diabetes and all these other health issues, those are all restrictive. Having to be beholden to 13 different medications every day, or your body's just going to shut down, that's restrictive. Being able to eat meat has actually lifted so much weight and burden off of your lives and all of our lives. So it's the least restrictive thing in the world. It's the most freeing thing. And I think that your story is so illustrative of that. And I just thank you very much for sharing that. That must have been, well, I'm very glad you're out of it. It must have been a very, very difficult time to go through.
Yeah, I mean, there were some dark moments, and thankfully my wife has been very, very supportive and always been there for me. My children, they didn't know as much about certain things until later. Like I said, we have a 19 and a 17-year-old, and they know a little bit more about the anxiety and things like that, because at a certain point it became necessary to say, the reason why we're not going into that large crowd of people is because it won't be good,
Right.
kind of thing. And the biggest thing that really fired this up and got me to the point where I decided to stop making all the excuses, because I had made them all, was I took my family to Disney a little more than a year ago. And that's one of the pictures that I show as a before picture, because I'm standing there with my father-in-law. And the only reason I'm standing there, you don't know it, but there's a scooter that's to the right of me, and it's not in the picture because I framed it out, but I had to use that to get around. I couldn't walk the parks. I couldn't ride some of the rides with my children. My kids and everybody were really excited to be there. They'd walk on. The scooter could only go so fast, and a lot of times I was lagging behind and stuff like that. And I decided right then and there, I was going to come back to Disney, and I was going to do it with my kids, and I was going to be able to ride the rides, and I was going to be able to walk, and I was not going to need a scooter. And I'm thankful to say that I've been to Disney multiple times now with my family, and I have not needed a scooter. And in some cases, I've walked more than 26,000 steps in a day.
Jeez. Nice, Joey. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think the last time I went to Disneyland, it must have been, I don't know, 20 years ago, but I remember seeing this guy, and he was there with like a group of people, and he was on one of those sort of little scooters that the Disneyland provides, but the guy was like, 20 something. And I remember we were just sort of chatting or whatever, because I was actually on crutches. So I had broken my leg. So I had like a pass to like go through. You don't have to stand in line and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I actually went through the back, which you probably got to do as well, which is great. You skip every line. You actually you enter through the exit and you just go up and you get to ride as many times as you want. So I thought that was great. I did all of Disneyland like in 2-3 hours. I did every single ride multiple times. It was great. Whereas normally you're waiting an hour just to get on one of these things. And Magic Mountain didn't do that. That bummed me out because I love the rides on Magic Mountain like more, but they didn't let you do that. But I met this kid and he was saying, and he had one of those scooter things. I was like talking to him. I was like, oh, what happened to you? He's like, no, I just didn't want to walk all this way. I was just sort of just tired. So I just asked for a scooter and they just gave me this pass, thinking that I was disabled. So I was like, fine, I'll take it. So he was just rolling his scooter around because he was just lazy, just wasn't feeling like walking. And he had like 7 people he was with and he was just riding a scooter and he just wouldn't walk. It was kind of funny, but he ended up getting the skip the line pass as well. So it ended up working out for him. So everyone knows. I just ruined it for everyone.
Yeah. Now there's going to be a queue out the door for the mobility scooters.
Oh, there's going to be this bunch of people going, "Oh, you're just lazy now." You're lazy.
Or just everyone's going to figure it out, and I'll get the skip the line pass, and just bring crutches to.
Well, when that happens, then the standby line will go down, right? You'll be able to go into the standby line and get by.
Yeah. Or they just ruin it for everyone. They're like, "You're a liar." I want to see your X-rays. I want to see that broken bone.
I want to see the broken bone. Yeah. So, but no, yeah, we had a disability access in order to be able to not have to stand for very long. But the way they had it set up was that it was basically a virtual queue. So we would sign it. We would go on the app and say that we wanted to do it at whatever time. And then we couldn't return before that time to ride the ride. And so we would probably, we technically would still wait the hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. But when we would show up, we'd only have to wait like 5 minutes and then we'd get on the ride. So, but they adjust it periodically. That may go away at some point and they'll replace it with something new, but I got to ride several of the rides and enjoyed that. I rode all the roller coasters with my kids, and one in particular, I guess, was the Avatar ride, Flight of Passage. The first time I tried to ride that, they kind of lock you. It's kind of like a motorcycle that you're sitting on, in a way, and they lock you in by putting this back brace up there. But I was too fat for it to lock into place, and when they tried to push it into place, it cracked my back. And they were like, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And so I had to get off and let my kids ride without me. And that was a big moment for me. I was like, I want to ride this ride and I want to ride it with my kids. So I went back and I guess it was 2 months later after doing Carnivore, and I was able to ride it and I enjoyed it and it was great.
Nice.
Every ride since then has been getting better and better because I'm getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. So, that's great, man.
Nice, Joe. Yeah, sometimes you need to hit rock bottom, right? It sounds like that was it for you.
Yeah, that was my rock bottom. I know there's people that get lower than that and whatnot. And I know there's a lot of people out there that, they still need to hear the message, about it. And that's one of the reasons why I try to talk to as many people about it as I can and try to motivate people, even in my family, about it. One of the things that I said to my father-in-law recently was because he asked me, he's like, well, what about bread? What about this? What about that? And I said, well, nature is natural and mankind is the only animal on earth that's confused about what it needs to eat. I said, seriously, I mean, I know it's cliche to say nature is natural, but elephant's not confused about what it needs to eat, there is no other creature on earth that's confused about it. And, and there's a very, very real scientific evidence to back up the fact that we are intended to eat meat. And, it's not a coincidence that when we start eating meat or eat, a meat-based diet where that's all we're eating, that the problems that we're dealing with tend to go away. I mean, one of the things.
Well, sorry,
go ahead.
No, go on.
What I was going to say is one of the things that I heard from an instructor when I was in school for MA was for medical assistant was that she wanted to know what we thought about cancer and why everybody. When I was a kid growing up, you might run into somebody that did not have cancer touch their family. As I got into high school, that was not the case. Everyone knew someone and it had touched their family in some way or another. And then by the time I got into college, they were like, why is it that cancer is so prevalent? And she made a comment. She said, we're either doing it to ourselves or it's in our environment. And
makes sense.
And that's it. We're either doing it to ourselves or it's in our environment. And I'm going to go with, we do it to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, when we make our environment, we're making our environment worse, and, but it is environmental, right? I mean, it can't be genetic, right? Right. Genetic factors in it make you more or less susceptible, but the cancer rates since 1980 have tripled. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's not genetic, like anyone who studies population genetics, who has ever actually taken college genetics would understand that, and that's when you look at the equations for population genetics, like you see, unless you have some sort of crazy mass extinction or, the Mongol horde comes in and just wipes out and ravages and it rapes and pillages the whole area, you can't actually change, the genes and alleles by any significant degree. The percentage continues to stay the same despite the growth or shrinkage of the population, right? So you get more population, you'll get more, you'll get more in total, but as a percentage, it'll be the same, right? But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing, a tripling of the rate of cancer, not just the total numbers of cancer. So and people say, oh, well, we're screening earlier, so we're catching it. Like, right. Okay. So yeah, we're catching cancer. So it's not turning into full blown stage 4 cancer. Like, do you think that just we catch it early and if we didn't catch it early, it would just go away on its own? Like, no, it's going to get worse. People just don't think. So what we're doing screening is we're catching things. So there's just more numbers because we catch them. Like, same numbers. It's just we're getting them early. Before they're easily before they're, it's noticeable that they have this. But if you don't touch it, if you don't treat it, then, it just gets worse. Right.
Right. Metastasize and goes all over the place,
And so, when you look at animals, all animals, basically, they absorb and they run on fat and protein. That is what they run on. Right. And so, the herbivores that can eat plants and they can turn plant material into fat and protein, they do that. Other animals can't do that, So carnivores are these animals that can't turn fiber into fat and protein because they don't have the stomachs and the rumen and the different, bacteria. I mean, they can get some of the bacteria, but they don't have the physical setup for that bacteria to eat that fiber in large enough quantities so they can actually get through it, and you can subsist on the fat that they produce, because that's what they produce. They produce saturated fat and protein when they're breaking down the fiber and then dying. That's where the protein comes from. So everything runs on fat and protein, and we don't have the ability to turn plant material into fat and protein. Right? You need to turn plant material into animal material. We are animals. We need to have the building blocks for animal tissue, right? So you can eat another animal that has animal tissue, and herbivores can do this too. And you actually see herbivores do this sometimes, eating other animals.
Yep.
But they also have the ability to turn plants into animal tissue, and that's the whole point. You still need to turn this food substance into yourself, into animal tissue, and we don't have that ability. We simply do not have the ability to turn fiber into human animal material. We can get some things, we can make it work, but it's not great. It's not bioavailable. It's not optimal, and it comes with a lot of horrible things with it.
Yeah,
And
bad downsides.
Yeah, it's incomplete nutrition. Like you're never going to get enough nutrition. You're never going to get the proper essential nutrients just by eating plants. And so we do have to eat meat. And in fact, we can only eat meat, and we can not only thrive, but we can thrive optimally by just eating meat. But that's all animals. All animals just need fat and protein and certain vitamins, depending on their species. And we are part of that. We aren't able to get that from plants. We aren't able to turn plants into what we need.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Joey, you've had all this success, literally saved your life, lost all this weight. What's next, and what's the mission?
Right now, the mission is, like I said, for my own personal goals, is I want to lose probably another 45, 50 pounds. I'm currently doing the next 30 days with you guys on the Carnivore Challenge, which thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe.
I like paying it, but the other part of my goal there is just paying it forward, right? Like with the books and the things like that, whenever I read them and I get something out of them, I will pass those along to other people that are interested in it. We have a contractor that's here that showed up in November, and he was heavier than I was, at my heaviest, and had noticed that I was cooking steaks for that day while he was over, and he asked me about it, and I told him, I said, yeah, we're actually supposed to eat this. So aren't you worried about cholesterol? I said, no, I'm not worried about cholesterol.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So but I told him about it, and he seemed interested. And the next time he was out, I had Sean Baker's book, Carnivore Diet, and I had already read through it and highlighted all the things in it and pretty much memorized that book. And I bought books for everybody that was in my family that was interested, and sent those to them and whatnot. But I had lent this book out a couple of times already to other people that were interested in it, and I just he was interested, so I handed it to him, and I said, here, I want you to have this. You seemed interested in it. You were asking about where to get it, and here's the book. It's highlighted, but here it is. He said, well, I'll get it back to you. I said, no, don't worry about it. I said, I already have the information from it. I already know what I need to know from it. I said, if you get something from it, great. If you want to pass it on to somebody else, then great too. Just pay it forward, right? Because he tried to pay me for it too, and I was like, no, I don't want your money, man. Just get something from it. I saw him again yesterday because he came back out for some work that we're having done on the house, and he had lost a ton of weight. And I asked him, I said, so how are you doing on that? And he goes, well, I need to get back on track. I kind of fell off a little bit in the last few weeks, but none of my clothes fit anymore.
Awesome.
And I said, well, that's great. And he says, I don't weigh myself on the scale, so I couldn't tell you exactly how much weight I lost. But none of my clothes fit anymore. I'm getting ready to not have to be on medications anymore. The skin tags that I had on that were coming up all over the place are disappearing. He said several girls at the office are now doing the carnivore diet, and they're passing the book around and this and that. And so I was like, well, that's awesome. I mean, I couldn't ask for more, right? That's fulfilling because it saved my life. And if I can try to help someone else and and maybe they can have the same result, or maybe the message gets sent to somebody else that's at the same low spot that I was at, and try to pass that on. And any way that I can try to help somebody, I want to try to do that. So that's my goal now, I think, and maybe my calling now is that I just want to try to pass that along. I've got a real good friend of mine from high school that had bariatric surgery several years back, but and she had lost a lot of weight, and did really well, but she had a lot of vitamin deficiencies and all kinds of things that were probably as a result of that procedure, having more difficult time absorbing those vitamins and nutrients now, and the type of diet that she was still eating. But I convinced her to give carnivore a try for the last 30 days, and she's been doing it for about 3 weeks, and she says she's never felt better. She's sleeping better at night. She's got way more energy during the day. She's gave up caffeine, just all kinds. So I mean, it's we have a mutual friend who happens to be vegan. Well, at least she used to be friends with me on Facebook, but when she saw me posting a lot of things about steaks, she ended up blocking me or unfriending me. So, but what was funny is that while my one friend was talking about it on her Facebook posts about how she was doing carnivore and she was feeling better and eating more butter and all this other stuff, the vegan friend that we have decided to comment on there about how she could help her lose weight by eating carbs and bread and pastas and fruits and vegetables, and I can help you do it. And
good luck.
She says, "No, I think I'm going to stick with carnivore for a while."
Yeah, good. What's the thing? I mean, like, yeah, you can lose weight eating anything really, but you have to do it in unhealthy ways, and you're going to be eating unhealthy things, so even if you are eating carbs and sugar and you're losing weight because you're seriously restricting calories and essentially starving yourself, is that good? Is that a good thing to do? Are you getting proper adequate nutrition? Are you getting all the nutrients you need? Are you excluding things that are harmful to you? So it's not about losing weight. It's not about, looking a certain way. It's about being healthy, and being, a moderate body fat percentage and a certain body composition is a general indicator of overall health, but it actually is not one-to-one. You can get that look simply by doing what you can do that by doing things that are harmful to you. So it can be a sign of good health, but it is not necessarily good health, because you can do unhealthy things to get there, like starving yourself and eating things that are less optimal. But so that's not the point. The point is to be healthy,
Yeah, I mean, when she was having to have a couple of iron infusions a month,
Jeez. I mean, seriously, why is she dishing out advice?
And now she's not having to do that anymore.
Yeah.
She started taking it so much so that she got herself a sous vide as well, so that she can I just find it super easy to do. I like the dry age stuff, but buying meat in bulk, like this last week, I bought about 85 pounds of New York strip from, bought a case of it from Sam's, and that will last us for about a month and a half, 2 months. Because I cut up all my own steaks and then I freeze them individually. And then in the morning before I get going, I'll take it and stick it in the sous vide. And by the time I get home, it's ready to go on the Blazing Bull, the infrared 1500 degrees, sear it on both sides, and you're done. Presto changeo, easy peasy. And right now, I did a New York strip today. And then as soon as I got done eating that, I went ahead and I stuck a chuck roast in the sous vide. So that'll sous vide for 24 hours. And then that comes out about as tender as prime rib the next day. And I'll sear it up just like I would a steak and just salt it and go. And me and my wife will just, when we get done doing what we're doing tomorrow, get home probably about 10 or 11 o'clock and, sear that on both sides and then sit down. We don't even put it on a plate. We just cut it up on the cutting board and sit down at the table and eat it off the cutting board.
Yeah.
So we enjoy the hell out of that. And it makes life a whole lot easier for us as well. We don't have to say, what are we going to have with the steak? It's a steak.
Yeah, another steak. Yeah.
Yeah, steak. If we having something with the steak, it might be some butter. That's it. That's the side item, butter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always people ask me, is this like, so you have a steak and what do you have with it? I'm like, another steak.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're just eating steak.
It's different when you eat fatty steak. A lot of people have only had well done, dry, lean steak, and so you do need sauce with that. But it's just such a shame because it's nowhere near fatty enough.
I call that beef jerky at that point.
And that's another thing with girls and women. A lot of them say, well, I just don't like red meat. I just don't like steak. And
I haven't had good steak.
Well, that's it, because they're fat averse. So they want the really lean one. So they always go for like a filet mignon. And then they say, it's like, oh, well, you can't have it undercooked because it's bad for you, because you'll get some sort of, some sort of, hantavirus or something like that. And then so they say, yeah, cook it well done. So you get this filet mignon, which has no fat, and now they cooked it well done. It's just like, it turns into a hockey puck. It's just like, well, of course you don't like steak. I don't like that steak. That's terrible. But you ruined that thing. That poor thing died for you to live, and you've destroyed it. You've desecrated its body. So like, don't do that.
That's one step away from being ground up and put into capsules so that you can say you had steak pills.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah. And I think it'd be more enjoyable that way too, and
probably.
So, but that's the thing. Then you cook an actual steak with fat, and, it's medium rare to rare, and they just go, oh my God, like I had no idea. And I've had a lot of people have that reaction. Oh, I just don't really like steak. Like vegans, who I've ended up converting, and they're just like, okay, I'll try it. I'm like, well, I just don't really like try this one. You will like this one. Like, this will be the best steak you've ever had. And they're like, okay, sure it is. And they definitely like, oh my God, like, yeah, that actually is. And, because, they're just not cooking it right. You're destroying it. And so, it makes a big difference how you prepare it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, I started dry aging with the Umai dry bags. But then when I saw how you did it with just salting them and setting them on the racks, I started doing that. And I would do that even with chuck. I would buy that uncut, cut my own steaks from that, and then put it on the rack. And it made all the difference in the world. I didn't start sous vide until November. And that just, for me, it makes it super tender. And then if you've got a way to get a really good crust on something, then it really makes a difference. It's
100%. All right, Joey. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on here, man. How can people find you?
They can find me at _carnivore_Joe on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
And they'll have to send a request to follow, just because I did. I started touching the nerve of some vegans, and they started trying to attack me personally.
So all those vegans that watch our show, guys, don't follow. It's not your thing, really.
Exactly. So just to keep the social media civil and not have to argue with somebody on the internet. I just went ahead and switched my deal over to private. So anybody that wants to follow me can, but I have to approve the request before.
Yeah, you can't have vegan in your name unless it's like ex-vegan or something like that.
Well, I do look at the profiles when they request.
It's an exclusive club.
Yeah,
it is. It is. You gotta like to eat meat.
Yeah. Very good. All right, Joe, mate, we really appreciate it, and
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
Anytime you guys come to Destin, come here to Florida, man, we'll cook it up.
Sounds good, man.
Sure. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
So much, really. truly.
Our buddy, have a good one.